Okay, we are live. Hello, good evening, and welcome back to another session of logical reasoning. The topic for today's session is decision making. How many of you are here with me in the class? Please let me know in the chat box and then we shall start. Are you guys here? How many of you are here? Tanvi is here. Chayan is here. I hope I'm saying your name right. Chayan. How do you pronounce it? Good evening. Good evening to all of you. Adrija is here. Diti is here. Very good evening, guys. Kashish is here. Good evening. Ayush is here. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to the class, everyone. Mangu is live. That's a nice username. Good evening. Samriddhi is here. Good evening. Hello. Let's start our discussion for the day. This class is for logical reasoning, and the topic which we have picked for today's class is decision making because we recently saw a passage and a set of questions on decision making in the CLAT 2024 paper. It was an easy set. I would not call it difficult by any means, but it's a new style of questioning, and I thought let's cover it. Many of you are demanding decision making per class, so we are here with it. Rajita is here. Okay, good evening. All right, are we ready to start? Should we start the class? Should we wait for a few more seconds? Is everyone ready? Can I get a ready in the chat box? Also, how is your preparation going when it comes to logical reasoning? As we just have usually one class in a week. So it's important for me to know how is your prep going for logical reasoning. On a scale of 0 to 10, let's give us a score. On a scale of 0 to 10, how is your preparation going for the logical reasoning section? Based on your confidence levels, based on your scores in mock exams. Wait, my friend is coming. जल्दी बुलाओ, दरवाजा बंद होने वाला है. Just kidding. बुला लो. ठीक है, चलो सब लोग तैयार हैं. जल्दी से पहले मुझे ये बताओ अभी सबकी प्रिपरेशन कैसी चल रही है लॉजिकल रीजनिंग की ऑन अ स्केल ऑफ 0 to 10 ऑन अ रेंज ऑफ 0 to 10. Divakar is saying start, sir. We'll start in a few seconds. Okay, Divakar says 8. What about the rest of you? Adrija is saying 8. Chayan is saying, sir, sometimes passage gets really tricky, but otherwise all good. Okay. Adrija says 8. So that's pretty good. Most of you are saying 8. That means you are pretty confident in logical reasoning section. Ayush is saying practice is 10 on 10, score is 7 on 10. That's okay. As long as practice is 10 on 10, score would keep on increasing. Just keep at it. Riti is saying based on score, I guess 8. Okay, that's pretty good then. Most of you are confident with logical reasoning. That's good to know. So let's start today's discussion. Let's start today's class on decision making. What is decision making? What simple है? Make a decision. है ना? No, ठीक है. Although it sounds very simple, and it is quite simple, there are some nuances involved, and we'll look at that. What is the way to approach decision making? What are the types of questions? What are the components of a question in a decision making set? We'll look at that. So let's start. Firstly, what is decision making? As simple as that, taking a course of action, or maybe not taking a course of action. In some cases, the best way is to not do anything, right? So taking a course of action, taking a decision, making a decision based on certain goals and objectives under some constraints, under some uncertainties, after evaluating all the possible alternatives and keeping the consequences in mind, we make a decision, and that is called decision making in terms of logical reasoning, right? So these are 5 components which you would usually see in decision making questions, right? At least 3, 4 of them, if not all. Let me get a pen. Yeah. So achieving a goal of objective, absolutely. अगर आपको decision लेना है तो किसी चीज को लेके लेना है ना. What is your goal? So for example, if you take an example of, let's say, building a career in law, right? So what is your goal? The goal could be different for all of you. For some it could be being a lawyer like Harvey Specter. For some it could be making a lot of money. For some it could be serving justice, doing something which helps the society. For some it could be carrying on a generational legacy if your dad is a lawyer or if your granddad is a lawyer. You never know. बट आप लोग मुझे चैट बॉक्स में बता सकते हो व्हाट इज योर गोल ऑफ परसुइंग लॉ. दैट वुड बी इंटरेस्टिंग टू नो while we continue with our lecture. So in our example, let's say your goal is to become a successful corporate lawyer. Okay. Now, what are some constraints? Some constraints would be that you know that in order to get into a top law firm, you need to break into the top law schools, the top national universities, to make your road easier, to make your path easier. If you, let's say, go to not so good law school, then it could be tougher. It could be much tougher to get placed in a tier one law firm. So that is the constraint, that you have to crack the CLAT exam. You have to make it to the top national universities. And under some uncertainties, what are the uncertainties? Obviously, the CLAT exam is an uncertainty in itself. You don't know if you'd be able to make it this time or the next time. You don't know. I mean, you can know to a certain extent, but there is a factor of luck involved. After you have made it to law school, there are still uncertainties. How would you perform throughout law school? Whether you would be at par with the academics and whatever is required to get into a top law firm. Then what are the alternatives? Evaluating the alternatives. So when you decided a goal or when you are working towards a goal, you look at all the alternatives. Can I be a practicing advocate? Can I be a judge? Can I be a legal journalist? Can I be a legal entrepreneur? N number of career options. So after evaluating, you decide a goal, right? And you decide your path. And then keeping the consequences or repercussions in mind. So if you become a corporate lawyer, you would have to slog in and work for long hours. You would not be able to take long vacations. In the early, phase of your career, you would have to compromise on a lot of partying and social life if you are going to hustle like a corporate lawyer in the initial few years. By the way, these are real things which I'm saying. These are not hypothetical examples. This is true. But again, not to demotivate you in any way, this is what a decision making thing looks like. In the CLAT exam, your problem was you had to resolve a crisis situation for a company. So you'd have to make certain decisions. What would impact the company? What would impact the company in a good way or in a bad way? So yeah, these are the 5 key elements of a decision making problem. And once again, let's look at the components of a question. What are the types of questions? We'll look at the types of questions, but these are components of the decision making questions. Firstly, you would have a problem. So these are 2 types of questions in decision making. Broadly speaking, there are 2 types of questions. Either there would be problem solving questions or situation based questions. Problem is you simply have a problem and you identify the cause of that problem, you find alternative solutions. And situation is you are in a certain situation and how can you improve that particular situation? How can you achieve your objective in that particular situation? So these are the 2 broad categories of decision making questions: solving a problem or improving a situation, right? Now, as I said, there would be an objective or a goal involved. There would be certain constraints which you would have to satisfy or keep in mind. There would be a guiding philosophy कि okay, ठीक है, अगर मुझे ये करना है तो मुझे daily 3 घंटे CLAT के लिए पढ़ाई करनी. That is my guiding philosophy to achieve the problem, right? To achieve my objective. And then who are the stakeholders involved in this whole scenario? You are firstly the largest stakeholder. Then there are stakeholders like your parents who would be dependent on you. Not exactly dependent, but who would be looking forward to you making a good career. Then there would be your faculty, your teachers at law school who would also be invested in your outcome. There would be your college who would be invested in your outcome. There would be your friends who would be invested in your outcome. So those are the stakeholders. Stakeholders in different types of problems can be different people. There can be decision makers. There can be people who are advisors. There can be people who are directly affected by the problem or indirectly affected by the problem. Basically, anyone who holds a stake in the problem, anyone who's involved with the problem in any particular way is a stakeholder. And you have to keep stakeholders in mind while making decisions. So when you make a decision of being a corporate lawyer and let's say not being I don't want to give this example, but let's say not being a rickshaw puller. Although there's nothing undignified about being a rickshaw puller, but that is not something aspirational for common parlance, right? So that is something which you decide also keeping in mind what would your parents think, what would society think. So you keep all stakeholders satisfied. My passion is not rickshaw pulling, but being a corporate lawyer, because my dad would kick me out of my house if I aspire to be a rickshaw puller. But yeah, no offense to rickshaw pullers and no demeaning to rickshaw pullers. Everyone is doing a hard work. Okay, so then we have long-term solutions and short-term solutions. So many problems are complicated. They do not have a direct solution which can be applied in short term as well as in long term. For example, the problem of pollution in Delhi, right? Now, as of now, when the pollution has reached unprecedented levels in the months of let's say October and November, when winter is approaching, when stubble burning happens, then you would have to look at a short term solution to alleviate the issues which are currently present. You would have to use water sprinklers, you would have to implement the odd even policy. But while this is happening, you'd also have to look at long term solutions like strictening emission norms for vehicles, and developing technologies where stubble burning can be reduced. But these are long term solutions which would take multiple years to put into practice and show results. But we need short term results as well. So you would have to analyze your problem and see whether you want short term solutions, long term solutions, or both running parallelly or simultaneously. These are the components of a decision making question, right? Is everything making sense up till now, guys? Am I clear? Can I get a clear in the chat box if everything makes sense up till now? Yes. I think I was going a little fast. I just realized that, but I hope I was making sense. I was going fast because it's very commonsensical. I mean, it's not very complex to understand. Okay, I have your responses as well, practices as well, but score depends. Okay, pursuing law may helping UPSC. Okay, interesting. Okay, everything is clear to everyone. Let's proceed then. Now, the types of decision making questions. Now we understand what are the components of a decision making problem. So, what are the types of questions? These are the examples that you would also see in the 2024 paper. I have the paper with you for you, and we would be solving the problem which was asked in the 24 paper, and then three, four other small problems so that we can solidify our concept. But let's look at the types of decision making questions. Firstly, you might be asked to identify the root cause. What is causing the problem? Identify the root cause of the problem. So, if let's say there's a problem related to revenue of a particular XYZ company going down, there could be multiple parameters involved, multiple factors involved. You would have to identify the root cause. ठीक है, top management has changed, या फिर we are spending more on capex, we are expanding rapidly. There could be any n number of causes. You have to identify the root cause. What is the fundamental thing that why the revenues are dropping? Then there could be objective based questions. Let's say the same company example. If you want to increase the revenue, the objective is increasing the revenue of the company. That could mean cutting down on expenses, that could mean layoffs, that could mean anything. Then what are the constraints? So you cannot fire everyone to increase your revenue, right? You cannot, let's say, fire your core team. So that is a constraint. You cannot, let's say, close operations in the major cities to reduce expenditure, because that is where your major revenue is coming. So that is also a constraint. You cannot, let's say, evacuate the building where your team is operating from to save on rent. That is a constraint. You'd have to pay rent. So there could be constraint based questions where you have to identify what are the constraints around which you need to operate, right? Then there is this would be the questions which would be most asked most frequently: course of action based or solution based. What is the course of action now? What should we do now? How do we resolve this problem? How do we achieve our objective? These would be course of action based questions. Then there would be fact based questions. These are pretty simple to do. You would be asked a certain fact which is already mentioned in the passage of the problem, and you'd have to analyze that fact and give a response based on that fact. Then these are very interesting questions, logic based questions. All the decisions you would be making in the decision making questions would be based on a certain logic. So they can ask you logic based questions that why should we not cut down on our employee force? Why should we not cut down on capital expenditure? Sort of these questions. Like, you would have to apply logic. And you would say that if you reduce the workforce, you would also lose out on efficiency, then you would lose out on your production capacity, and then you would also lose out on potential revenue, which would go against your objective. So you would have to give or satisfy a certain logic for making a certain decision. And then there could be vision based decisions or vision based questions where the long term vision of, let's say, a company or a corporation is asked to you, and why you are making those decisions to follow a particular vision and to align your actions with a certain vision. Those are the types of decision making questions which are usually asked. Now that we understand what are the types of questions which can be asked, what are the components of a decision making problem, what is the structure of a decision making problem, the next step to understand, the most crucial step to understand, is what is the framework around which a decision making problem should operate, or how should you approach a decision making problem in simpler terms. So, what do you think? What should be your first step when approaching a decision making problem? You guys tell me before I tell you. सबसे पहले क्या करना चाहिए अगर एक डिसीजन मेकिंग, अगर आपको डेली लाइफ में कोई डिसीजन लेना होता है तो आप सबसे पहले क्या करते हो? How do you approach a decision making problem in day to day life? What do you usually do? See the chat box. Riti is saying pursuing law would help me serve society, environment, and gain financial independence. Interesting. I like that. Sia says logical structure questions are problematic. Okay, we can look at that as well. Identifying the goals and desired outcomes, absolutely. You look at what is the goal and what do you want from that particular goal. Trying to figure out feasible solutions, no, that comes later. Solutions to what? Firstly, you identify the problem, right? You identify what is the issue. Understanding the circumstance could be one way to put it. But like how I call it is recognizing the issue or recognizing the root cause of the problem could be one way to look at it. And then looking at what are the stakeholders involved in that particular problem. So my first step would be recognizing the issue or the root cause. Let me write it down for you all. So we are doing the steps to solve decision making questions, right? Your first step would be recognize the issue or the problem, right? Or the root cause. Let's go one step ahead. Recognizing the root cause, which is causing the issue. So जब तक आपको problem अच्छे से पता नहीं होगी, how would you solve it? How would you make a decision, right? So this is the first step. And then of course, looking at the people involved, the stakeholders involved. Then what is the second step? Second step would be to consider all the facts around it, all the constraints, all the objectives. You'd be looking at what is our objective. Okay, ठीक है, we have identified an issue, but हम करना क्या चाहते हैं? हम हमारा goal क्या है? हमारा objective क्या है? And what are our facts around it? So next step would be to consider the objective or goal, correct? And then also looking at the facts around it. You could also say looking at laws around it in a lot of cases. अगर आपको कोई major decision लेना होता है, that for example if you take in context of a company, if a company has to take a major decision, it has to be lawful, it has to be legal. Let's say अगर आप एक organization run कर रहे हो and you are having more than 10 employees, then it is mandatory to have a POSH related committee in place, which is called the Internal Complaints Committee. POSH is prevention for sexual harassment. I think most of you must be aware the Vishakha guidelines. So for a company to have more than 10 employees, you'd have to constitute a ICC Internal Complaints Committee under the POSH Act. So this is a legal compliance. So you'd have to look at laws along with facts. Obviously, these laws would be mentioned in your problem. You don't have to apply your external knowledge when you talk about laws. But this is one thing which you should keep in mind, that not just facts and evidences, but also laws. And of course, constraints. यहाँ पे आपको constraints भी लिख लेते हैं, considering the constraints of the problem, right? ठीक है. Next step क्या होगा? Next step is what you guys suggested, which is analyzing and figuring out what could be a solution, what could be a course of action or solution. Course of action or solution. Correct. Now, good part for you is, although this is the toughest part of the question, you get 4 options. So you don't have to apply a lot of brains, a lot of logic. You have to choose the best course of action among the 4 given options A, B, C, and D, and see which of the option makes the most sense, which is the most appropriate and logical solution. Now, when you break down each of these steps, let's understand how do you actually recognize the root cause. All of us know we have to recognize the root cause and the issue. That's quite simple, duh. But how? How do we do it? What do we think when we have to recognize the issue or the root cause? You ask 3 primary W related questions. What are the W questions? What, when, and why. So to recognize an issue, you asked what as in the context. What is the context? What is the objective? What is the goal? What are we looking at? So you ask the what, first thing. Then you ask a when. What is the timeline? कब लेना है मुझे decision? Short term लेना है, long term लेना है, और कितने लंबे time के लिए लेना है, अभी लेना है या कल लेना है या परसों लेना है. When. You ask your when. When do you take the decision? And then why? Why are you taking this decision? This relates to your root cause thing, right? Why are you choosing law as a career option? Why are you studying for CLAT to make it to the top law countries of the country, right? So asking 3 primary questions, which is what, when, and why, are going to form your first step. I'll write it down somewhere here. What, when, and why. These are the 3 questions you would be asking in order to recognize the root cause or recognize the issue. Okay. I hope everything is clear up till now. Moving on to the next step. The next step is obviously identifying your stakeholders, considering your facts and objectives and laws and all of those things. Now, here you take a close look at who are the people who would be making the decision. So you look at stakeholders first of all. You look at who are the decision makers. Sometimes ऐसा होता है कंपनीज में, लाइक मैं बार बार कंपनी का एग्जांपल दे रहा हूँ क्योंकि बहुत सारे कंपनी वाले क्वेश्चंस ही पूछे जाते हैं डिसीजन मेकिंग क्वेश्चंस में. सो कंपनी में ऐसा ही होता है कि फॉर एग्जांपल अलग अलग टाइप के डिसीजंस होते हैं. One could be a very big decision. For example, whether let's say it's a company which, let's say Zomato, okay, for an example. Let's say Zomato is a company and they have made a big pivot towards now delivering groceries and all of those things through Blinkit. So this is a very big decision, a very big pivot from their original business of food delivery, and let's say a very big expansion, not pivot, expansion. Should this decision be taken by the office boy or the CEO? Office boy is someone who like brings tea and coffee for the staff. Who should take this decision, the office boy or the CEO? Tell me in the chat box. I mean, very very simple and basic question. हाँ कृष्ण, मुझे याद है आपका question. We'll address that in the class. Don't worry. The CEO, obviously, right? CEO, top management, board of directors, XYZ. So this is a top decision and you need to identify कि इसका stakeholder कौन होना चाहिए, office boy होना चाहिए या CEO होना चाहिए. Obviously CEO होना चाहिए. अब let's say there is a strategic decision related to a very niche concept in Facebook ad marketing. You think the CEO is the right person to take this decision, or the expert which the company has hired for digital marketing is the right person? The digital marketing expert or the CEO? For a strategic decision related to a marketing campaign which they have to run on Facebook, who should take it? The expert on that particular digital marketing thing or the CEO? Tell me. The expert, because he knows the nuances of how Facebook ads work. CEO might know the broader picture, CEO might know business and profits and all those things, but he does not know how the algorithm of Facebook ads work. So the expert is a better decision, the better stakeholder there. And then there could be routine decisions like, let's say, the leave policy. Who would decide the leave policy? The HR department. So again, you would have to decide that if there's a decision, who would be the person who should be consulted, who would be the person who would be held responsible, who would be the stakeholder, and what are the challenges which you are going to face. This would be step 2, recognizing challenges and identifying stakeholders. I'll write it down somewhere. Can I clean this? I hope you guys have noted this down. I'll give you 5 seconds to take a screenshot if you want to. If you can read and understand my handwriting at a later stage, good luck with that, but I hope you guys can. Can I erase this? I'll wait for 5 seconds. 1 2 3 4 5. चलो ठीक है. I hope you guys noted it down. ठीक है, वरना स्ट्रीम पे तो रहेगा ही, वापस आके देख लेना, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. So the next step is considering challenges and identifying stakeholders. This is step 2. Challenges and stakeholders. Correct. And lastly, the final step is, of course, choosing an answer, which is going to satisfy a few important criteria. Firstly, the decision should be fair. Secondly, the decision should be ethical. Thirdly, the decision should be, of course, legal. Fourthly, and primarily, this should come in first. In fact, it meets the objective. बाकी सारी चीजें बाद में आएंगी. चलो मैं लिख देता हूँ यहाँ पे. Step 3. Picking a choice, making a decision. Firstly, it should meet the objective, of course, because that's what we are doing. Then it should be fair, it should be ethical, it should be legal. And write this in a single point: fair, ethical, legal. Make sure that your decision satisfies these criteria. Then of course keeping your constraints in mind. ऐसा ना हो कि भाई मान लो किसी ad campaign को चलाना है, उस ad campaign का budget है let's say 50,000 rupees and आपने ad campaign चला दिया 5 lakh rupees का बिना boss से पूछे, तो आपकी तो गई नौकरी फिर. तो you have to keep the constraints in mind while making a decision, right? Then of course your decision would depend on the feasibility, urgency and conflict management as well. फीजिबिलिटी, कितना फीजिबल है डिसीजन, कितना अर्जेंट आपको वो कॉल लेना है, एंड क्या वो किसी चीज से कंफ्लिक्ट तो नहीं कर रहा. मैनेजिंग कंफ्लिक्ट्स. ठीक है, feasibility, urgency and managing conflicts would be the last thing you would look at. So meeting objective, fair, ethical, legal, constraints and conflicts, and feasibility and urgency and conflicts. These are the four things which you would ideally look at while making a decision. Now, there could be a few plus and minus based on a particular specific problem, but the larger framework is this. Okay. So, yeah, that is the three steps you need to solve any question of decision making. I believe that covers everything we could possibly look at from a theoretical perspective. Now, we'll solve a few questions and then put these theories to application. But if everything which we discussed up till now, all the theoretical gyan per se, is clear to everyone, if it is clear, can I get a quick clear in the chat box so that I know you guys are on the same page? Clear in the chat box? I hope you guys are taking notes of these things. Jyoti is saying, okay, sir, so in these passages, the tone of the author is not important because it's usually neutral. We just rely on our understanding. Yes, completely correct. Okay, it's clear to everyone. That's perfect. अरे यार ये क्या हो गया? Just a second, guys. Tab change हो गया. Okay. ठीक है, तो ये रहा हमारा क्लैट वाला पैसेज. इस पे ये रहे 1 2 3 4 5 6 क्वेश्चंस. ये हम करेंगे. इससे पहले छोटे छोटे क्वेश्चंस करते हैं कुछ बेस्ड ऑन छोटे छोटे पैसेजेस सो दैट वी कैन अंडरस्टैंड इफ वी have grasped the theory or not. Okay, so question, four options. This is the problem, and you have to make a decision. Make sure you read the question and the passage very carefully. Let's solve question number one very quickly, guys. By the way, this is trial run, not trail run. Waiting for your answers to question number one. Okay, Mishika says four seems the most logical. The rest seem weird or selfish. Fair. I'll wait for a few more responses. You would see a lot of weird options in decision making questions. Get used to it. Aditya says four. What about others? Villain plays says four. Adrija also says four. Okay, you guys are pretty much on point. It is option four. The question is saying you have been using a certain computer to perform your role for years. It has been proved to be stable and reliable. Recently, you would inform that it will be upgraded next month with a new functionality and applications. You're concerned about the time it would take to have a trouble-free system, as the current system took 6 months to become trouble-free. Now you have to decide your response to this news. Which of the following would be the least effective response? Finding out all you can about the system and volunteer to be the first one to trial. I mean, this is a okay response. This is not a very counter effective response, I would say. So can rule it out. Voice your concern to your superior and recommend that all possible upgrades be delayed until all possible issues have been identified and resolved. Seems like a very logical sort of a response, although quite drastic, but logical. Ask all other colleagues to run the new systems for errors so that the quality of your work is not compromised. But see, this is a selfish response, but still a logical response. Four is saying believe that all appropriate checks have been carried out and wait for the introduction of the upgrade so that you can assess its functionality. Now, this would definitely not be a very productive or logical way to go about it, because there would be troubles, there would be 6 months of trouble. So, you cannot just believe that all the appropriate checks have been carried out. You need to take responsibility of carrying out checks and doing whatever you can to mitigate whatever problems you might face. So, this is the least effective response, that you just believe that सब कुछ हो रखा है, appropriate checks हो रखे हैं, and that is why this becomes our answer. Very simple question. Let's do another question. Question number two. Which of the following options must not be recognized, must not be considered by the employee? Okay. 45 seconds for this. Mishika is saying, I just read the answer. It should be one. No. Read the answer as in. Also, why are you sitting on your caps lock, Mishika? Oh, typing into WhatsApp. Who are you helping with the answers on WhatsApp? Question number two, guys. Let's do it very quickly. Last 15 seconds. SLAT mock answers. Okay. Harshvardhan says 3. Okay. Dhriti says 4. Aditya says 1. Okay. We have almost all the responses. 1 or 4. Okay. Chalo, theek hai. Let's look at this. Should I wait for more time? For a few more seconds? Or should I solve it? Chalo, theek hai. Let's solve it. As a relatively small part of your role, you are responsible for the maintenance of a database of statistical information regarding meteorological data and its link to road traffic levels at the Indian Meteorological Department. This is drawn upon every 3 months for analysis, although for the past few years the results have been consistent and predictable, and some people have questioned the need for such detailed data. In order to compile the information, you rely on daily input of information from a number of people in different localities. One day, one of these individuals comes to you to request that data be submitted on a weekly rather than daily basis to save time. Your boss is on a holiday and you are left to take the decision. Which of the following given options must not be considered by the employee? Inform them that you cannot authorize it until your boss is back. So this should be considered, na? How can this be the answer? You have to give the option which must not be considered by the employee. Inform them that you cannot authorize it until your boss is back from leave. Yeah, this can be considered, so wrong. Make the change as it seems more sensible and inform your boss when he returns. I would definitely not consider this because it's a major change. And doing it and then informing your boss later could backfire. Inform him that there is no chance of any change in the reporting pattern. I mean, this could be considered. You could take that call. You don't know. Ask the other person involved in it and what is their take, and tell this to your boss once he comes back. So this should be considered, no? This should be considered. This can be considered, but this is also to be considered. But this is not something you can consider. That make the change as it seems more sensible and inform your boss when he returns. I mean, seems like a major decision from making it daily to weekly, and not even keeping your boss in loop. Even if it was like texting your boss while he's on holiday or whatever, keeping your boss in loop in some way, that would have been a possible consideration. But when you're saying it should not be considered by the employee, then definitely I would say two should not be considered by the employee. Doing something without your boss's क्या कहते हैं, approval. Misread कर लिया सबने question. Volapalli is saying 2 and 3 are almost same, like after the boss comes back. See, 3 is saying inform him that there is no chance of any change in the reporting pattern. That is refuse him, which can be done because this is the pattern which has been maintained for years, right? Although for the past few years this has been the pattern, and this is giving you consistent and predictable details and data. So yeah, you can refuse him. Simply say नहीं हो पाएगा बॉस, ऐसे ही चलता आ रहा है, ऐसे ही चलेगा. बट आपने चेंज कर दिया और फिर बाद में बाकी बॉस को आप बता रहे हो, तो दैट इज अ वेरी ड्रास्टिक स्टेप which an employee should not take, in my opinion. So yeah, I would definitely not consider this. I can definitely consider refusing it, because why not? रिफ्यूजिंग सिंपली मीन्स यू मेंटेन स्टेटस को, राइट? ऐसा कोई नुकसान नहीं हो रहा किसी का, बट इससे नुकसान हो सकता है. इससे कोई नुकसान नहीं होगा. सो अगेन, लुकिंग एट कंस्ट्रेंट्स, लुकिंग एट कोर्स ऑफ एक्शन, लुकिंग एट स्टेक होल्डर्स. यहाँ पे आपने स्टेक होल्डर्स को उसमें नहीं लिया ना, लूप में नहीं लिया. यहाँ पे आप स्टेक होल्डर्स को लूप में ले रहे हो. दैट इज वाई ऑप्शन 2 एंड नॉट ऑप्शन 3. ओके, लेट्स डू क्वेश्चन नंबर 3. अच्छा, 2 एंड 4 कह रहे थे आप, अरे यार. 4 भी देख लेते हैं. Ask the other person involved in it and what isn't in there, and tell this to your boss once he comes back. अब देखो, ये क्यों नहीं कंसिडर करना चाहिए? ये तो कंसिडर करना चाहिए ना, कि आपने डिसीजन लिया नहीं अभी, आपने बस सामने वाले बंदे से पूछ लिया कि भाई तुम्हें क्या मिल रहा है इससे, व्हाट इज देयर टेक, एंड टेल दिस टू योर बॉस वंस ही कम्स बैक. आपने बस बॉस को बता, आपने डिसीजन नहीं लिया ना. यहाँ पे मेक द चेंज हो गया. यहाँ पे बस आपने पूछा उस पर्सन से कि भाई व्हाट इज इन इट फॉर यू, व्हाई आर यू सजेस्टिंग दिस चेंज. यू डिड नॉट मेक द चेंज. यहाँ पे यू मेड द चेंज विदाउट द बॉस अप्रूवल. यहाँ पे यू जस्ट आस्क फॉर इन्फॉर्मेशन टू टेल द बॉस लेटर एंड देन मे बी टेक अ कॉल. सो दैट इज व्हाई दिस कैन बी कंसिडर्ड, दिस कैन नॉट बी कंसिडर्ड. ओके, चलो लेट्स डू क्वेश्चन 3. आई होप दैट सेटल्स इट. श्रेयस, एक में यू आर मेकिंग द चेंज, एक में यू आर जस्ट कंसिडरिंग द चेंज. यू आर जस्ट आस्किंग फॉर इन्फॉर्मेशन. इन्फॉर्मेशन तो पूछ सकते हो ना बिना बॉस के. चेंज नहीं करना चाहिए बिना बॉस के. लेट्स डू क्वेश्चन 3 गाइस. आई होप क्वेश्चन 2 वाज क्लियर टू एवरीवन. Hmm. Are we done? Okay. Chalo. Let's see. Let's look at the question. You are new to the department and your boss has handed you a brief for a presentation that covers what you should tell your department about the new IT system that is being introduced. Okay. Your boss would have done it himself, but he has annual leave for the next few days. It contains a lot of facts, and you are aware that your boss prefers a more factual, dry presentation style. However, you are concerned that the audience would find the content dull and you would want to make a good first impression on them. What would be the least effective answer? Now, respecting the approach that your superior would have taken and present just the facts, but try to do so quickly so that the audience does not get bored. This could be a reasonable approach. I would not say this is a very least effective approach. So I would rule this out. Introduce a range of interactive, entertaining elements to the briefing that increased audience engagement with the content prepared by your boss, but might not reflect the style of your boss. Okay, the content is getting delivered, the audience is also not getting bored, but just the boss ka style is not getting reflected. This can be a possible choice. I would not have it as my first choice, but I cannot rule it out as well. So I don't know, let's see. Send a brief around in email form prior to the meeting and then engage in a two-way discussion with the audience about the system. This is a good way to satisfy all the criterias. You deliver all the facts in the email and then you engage in a two-way discussion. This seems like an effective way to tackle this problem. So I would rule this out because we want the least effective answer. And fourth is suggest to your boss that he may like to present the content when he returns, as this will ensure that it gets delivered in the way he intended. Now, see, what is our primary problem? The boss has entrusted you with making the presentation. Now, boss wants it to get done while he is at the leave. So you are just suggesting your boss कि आप आ जाओ फिर आप करना जैसे आपको करना है देखा जाएगा तो नहीं he wants you to present it भाई the IT system has been introduced डिपार्टमेंट बैठा थोड़ी ना रहेगा पूरा जब तक बॉस वापस नहीं आएंगे so the presentation has to be made. That is, very essential that the presentation is made. अब वो कैसे दी जाती है that is secondary. तो यहाँ तो ये हो रहा है कि भाई बॉस को बोल दो कि आप आके ही प्रेजेंट करना जैसे आपको करनी है. तो this would be my least effective answer for sure because यहाँ पे तो presentation हो ही नहीं रही ना. No presentation is happening, but we want the presentation to happen. That is a primary decision which the boss has entrusted you with. Style of delivery is secondary कि कैसे जा रही है, factual जा रही है, interactive जा रही है. But presentation जानी तो जरूरी है ना if new system is introduced. So fourth is the least effective answer in my opinion. And जिन्होंने फोर आंसर दिया उनका जवाब बिल्कुल सही है. बॉस विल फायर दैट गाय. चलो तो that brings us to the end of few practice questions. We'll look at the CLAT based questions. So most of you must have read this passage if you practiced past year papers, which I'm assuming you did, but still let's quickly read the facts and then we'll solve the questions. We have 30 seconds to read the passage and then we'll solve the questions very quickly. Just give me a done in the chat box when you're done reading the passage. Pedata, why not answer two? Because in answer two, at least the presentation is getting delivered, although in an engaging style, which is not the style of the boss. But the task was to, brief the team. The task was to make the team accustomed with the new system, and that task is successfully being done, although in a different style. But yes, the objective is being fulfilled. The first thing is the objective should be fulfilled. What was the objective? The orientation of the new team. So that was done, right? In fourth, the objective was also not fulfilled. That's why we chose uh, four and not two. Okay, Shreyas is saying, you said you were from Punjab last session. What do you think about the Khalistan movement? What do you? I don't want to publicly comment on this particular stream. My views are personal views, and as of now, I'm representing CL as an organization. So I don't think it's appropriate to share my personal views on this platform. Maybe if we engage in a personal discussion beyond the purview of this engagement, we'll have a talk on that. I hope you understand. Okay, everyone is done. Perfect. Let's solve questions very quickly. Short and sweet, crisp questions. धड़ाधड़ आंसर कर लेते हैं. क्वेश्चन नंबर 97 करते हैं सबसे पहले. तो देखो यहाँ पे रूट कॉज वाले क्वेश्चन मिल गया आपको. दिस वाज वन ऑफ द टाइप विच आई टॉक टू यू अबाउट while we were discussing theory. It's mentioned right in the passage. Very easy. Hello, Govind Bhaiya. Good evening. Good evening. Anya Forger. I don't know your real name. Aditya says B. Can you show the previous slide once again? Absolutely. This is the slide. The question is, what is the root cause of the decline? I'll wait for 5 more seconds before I switch back to the question. Okay. Cause means the root cause. Rest of the causes can be derived from the root cause. They can be subsequent causes. They can be causal links that this is the cause which is causing this effect. But what is the root cause? Okay. Hi, Disha. Good to have you here. Disha, my real name is Disha. अरे वाह क्या बात है. होली कब है होली. Interesting. Some of you are saying A, some of you are saying D, many of you are saying B. Let's solve it. देखो, the potential root cause is the lack of motivation and job satisfaction among the workforce, right? This has led to increased absenteeism. Not the new production system. Production system तो competitors के पास भी है ना, बट हमारी ही प्रोडक्शन एफिशिएंसी में डिक्लाइन क्यों हो रहा है? क्योंकि यहाँ पे क्या मिसिंग है? यहाँ पे मोटिवेशन और जॉब सेटिस्फैक्शन मिसिंग है. ब्रेकडाउन मशीनरी में नहीं हो सकता पोटेंशियल रूट कॉज, बिकॉज दूसरे लोग भी वो मशीनरी यूज कर रहे हैं, उनका तो नहीं हो रहा. देखो, you are a consultant manufacturing company experiencing decline in production efficiency. Company produces wide range of products. Management is concerned about overall output. Your task is to identify root cause of this decline and recommend solutions. When you begin your investigation, you find out company has recently introduced a new production system that is more automated but requires highly specialized operators. Workforce has reported lack of motivation and job satisfaction, which has led to increased absenteeism. मतलब लोग काम पे ही नहीं आ रहे हैं. किस वजह से? Lack of motivation की वजह से. There have been several breakdowns in the new machinery leading to production delays and quality issues. Companies competitors have adopted similar automation technology and experiencing increased productivity. तो देखो यहाँ से आपको क्या पता चलता है कि competitors ने भी सेम टेक्नोलॉजी यूज करी है, उनकी प्रोडक्टिविटी तो बढ़ गई है ना. कस्टमर कंप्लेंट्स अबाउट प्रोडक्ट क्वालिटी हैव इंक्रीज. ये तो चलो बात की बात है, ये रूट कॉज तो हो ही नहीं सकता, ये भी रूट कॉज नहीं हो सकता. एंड अब देखो ये बात रही सेवरल ब्रेकडाउन्स इन न्यू मशीनरी की लीडिंग टू प्रोडक्शन डिलेज एंड क्वालिटी इश्यूज. Now, this is a consequence. This is a consequence based on a particular cause, but is that the root cause of decline in overall output? Overall output बहुत सारी चीजों पे depend करता है. It depends on breakdowns in the machinery. It depends on production delays. It depends primarily on आपके employees काम पे आ रहे हैं कि नहीं आ रहे. अगर employees काम पे नहीं आ रहे तो उसके पीछे का रूट कॉज जानना ज्यादा जरूरी है ना, इन ऑर्डर टू अंडरस्टैंड कि भाई डिक्लाइन क्यों हो रहा है इतना ज्यादा. तो वो है लैक ऑफ मोटिवेशन एंड जॉब सेटिस्फैक्शन. उनको काम पे आने का मन ही नहीं है, उनको अपनी जॉब में खुशी नहीं है, तो कैसे वो काम पे आएंगे और कैसे वो टाइम पे प्रोडक्शन करेंगे और कैसे क्वालिटी रिजॉल्व होगी और कैसे ब्रेकडाउन रिजॉल्व होंगे. सबसे पीछे अगर जाओ आप तो ये मशीनरी को ऑपरेट कौन करता है? मशीनरी को ऑपरेट करते हैं वर्कफोर्स. वर्कफोर्स हो रहा है एब्सेंट. वर्कफोर्स क्यों हो रहा है एब्सेंट? क्यों 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 करते जाओ, वाई 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 आंसर करते जाओ. रिमेंबर द फ्रेमवर्क वाई व्हाट व्हेन. वो आप भूल रहे हो. थ्योरी को हम जब तक अप्लाई नहीं करेंगे बात नहीं बनेगी. ठीक है, तो गो थ्रू दैट प्रोसेस, जो प्रोसेस हमने डिस्कस किया है, एंड answer the why of it. What is it and why? So this is the why, right? Does it make sense? Why option B? Am I clear, guys? Does it make sense? Yes or no? Yes. Perfect. ठीक है, let's do question number 98. देखो ये क्वेश्चन वो आंसर करता है जो मैं ऊपर आपको समझाना चाह रहा था. व्हाट मेक्स द इंट्रोडक्शन ऑफ न्यू प्रोडक्शन सिस्टम अ पोटेंशियल कंट्रीब्यूटिंग फैक्टर टू द डिक्लाइन. सो क्या है प्रोडक्शन सिस्टम, क्या है कंट्रीब्यूटिंग फैक्टर है. इट्स नॉट अ रूट कॉज ऑल्दो इट इज कंट्रीब्यूटिंग टू द डिले एंड द प्रोडक्शन एफिशिएंसी, बट इट्स जस्ट अ कंट्रीब्यूटिंग फैक्टर यार. पीछे तक जाओ तो आपको पता चलेगा रूट कॉज क्या है. रूट मतलब जड़ है ना, फाउंडेशनल कॉज क्या है. तो वो ये है. बट ऐसा क्या कर रहा है न्यू प्रोडक्शन सिस्टम कि देयर इज इट्स एक्टिंग एज अ पोटेंशियल कंट्रीब्यूटिंग फैक्टर. सिंपल फैक्चुअल क्वेश्चन है ये तो. नहीं धृति, we cannot infer that due to lack of motivation there is breakdown in the machinery. Breakdown in the machinery is a potential contributing cause, but it's not the root cause. एक प्रॉब्लम के ना काफी सारे कॉज हो सकते हैं. एक हो सकता है एक कॉज जो उसको 20% कंट्रीब्यूट कर रहा है, एक हो सकता है कॉज जो उसको 80% कंट्रीब्यूट कर रहा है. आप रूट कॉज किसको बोलोगे, 20% को या 80% को? ऑब्वियसली 80% को. तो द मेजर इशू, द प्राइमरी इशू, द फाउंडेशनल इशू इज द एम्प्लॉय एंड द वर्कफोर्स. ब्रेकडाउन इज अ माइनर इशू. ठीक है. तो हम इन्फर नहीं करेंगे उससे उस चीज को. विल जस्ट इवेल्युएट रिलेटिवली कि हमारा रूट कॉज ज्यादा क्या है एंड कौन सा एक पोटेंशियल कंट्रीब्यूटिंग फैक्टर है. Shreyas is saying these are so close options. Seems like opinion on four different people on the same topic. Nishar is excited about something. Okay, most of you are saying it's B. Let's see. पहले देखो what makes the introduction of new production system a potential contributing factor to the decline. क्वेश्चन पे वापस आते हैं. Company produces a wide range of products and management is concerned about overall output and इन्होंने they are experiencing decline in production efficiency or task to identify. ठीक है. Introduce a new production system that is more automated but requires highly specialized operators. Workforce has lack of motivation leading to absenteeism. There have been several breakdowns in the new machinery leading to production delays and quality issues. सिंपल है ना, यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ है यार. सेवरल ब्रेकडाउन हो रहे हैं नई मशीनरी में जिस वजह से प्रोडक्शन डिलेस और क्वालिटी इश्यूज हो रहे हैं. कॉम्पिटिटर्स ने सिमिलर अडॉप्ट करी है बट उनकी प्रोडक्टिविटी बढ़ रही है. क्यों बढ़ रही है? क्योंकि उनके वर्कर्स में लैक ऑफ मोटिवेशन नहीं है बॉस. ठीक है, ब्रेकडाउन हो सकता है उनके भी हो रहे हो ना हो रहे हो, हमें नहीं पता. वी डोंट हैव दैट इन्फॉर्मेशन. बट देयर वर्कर्स आर एफिशिएंट, देयर वर्कर्स आर नॉट एब्सेंट. तो व्हाट इज द फैक्टर व्हिच इज हैपनिंग टू अस along with the root cause which is several breakdowns, ये हमें पता है. तो यहाँ पे क्या है, सिस्टम हाईली ऑटोमेटेड है, हाँ है. बट इज इट अ कंट्रीब्यूटिंग फैक्टर टू द डिक्लाइन इन एफिशिएंसी? नो. इट रिक्वायर्स स्पेशलिस्ट ऑपरेटर्स, हाँ चाहिए. बट क्या वो है जो कंट्रीब्यूट कर रहा है डिक्लाइन इन एफिशिएंसी को? नहीं. मशीन इज प्रोन टू ब्रेकडाउन्स. ये है ना कंट्रीब्यूटिंग फैक्टर जो डायरेक्टली लिंक्ड है टुवर्ड्स डिक्लाइन इन एफिशिएंसी. कॉम्पिटिटर्स ने अडॉप्ट करी सिमिलर टेक्नोलॉजी, तो वो हमारे लिए कंट्रीब्यूटिंग फैक्टर कैसे बन रहा? नहीं बन रहा. तो ये तीनों तो चलो ठीक है, रिलेटेड चीजें हैं बट इफेक्ट नहीं कर रही हमारे आउटकम को. हमारे आउटकम को क्या इफेक्ट कर रहा है कि मशीन जो है ब्रेक डाउन हो जा रही है. प्रोन टू ब्रेक डाउन मतलब देयर इज अ पॉसिबिलिटी ऑफ ब्रेक डाउन. एंड हमारे फैक्ट सिंपली कह रहे हैं कि देयर हैव बीन सेवरल ब्रेकडाउन्स इन द न्यू मशीनरी लीडिंग टू प्रोडक्शन डिलेज. डायरेक्ट लिखा हुआ है, देखो लिखा है कि नहीं लिखा है. हमें कहाँ पता है कि हमारे पास स्पेशलाइज ऑपरेटर्स हैं या नॉन स्पेशलाइज ऑपरेटर्स हैं? हमें क्या पता कि हमारे सिस्टम हाईली ऑटोमेटेड हमें चलाना आता है नहीं चलाना आता? वो सब एक हाइपोथेटिक सिचुएशन पे बेस्ड है. अब हमारे एम्प्लॉयज नहीं आ रहे, वो ठीक है, वो हमारा रूट कॉज है. बट हमारा पोटेंशियल कंट्रीब्यूटिंग फैक्टर क्यों बन रहा है नया सिस्टम? क्योंकि भाई ब्रेक डाउन हो जा रहा है. सिंपल एज दैट, डायरेक्टली लिखा हुआ है. हाँ वही मैं बता रहा हूँ आपको श्रेयस. व्हाई नॉट बी? बिकॉज वी डू नॉट नो दैट वेदर दीज ऑपरेटर्स, दिस वर्कफोर्स इज स्पेशलाइज्ड और नॉट. क्या यहाँ पे कहीं लिखा है कि जो न्यू प्रोडक्शन सिस्टम है इट रिक्वायर्स हाईली स्पेशलाइज्ड ऑपरेटर्स एंड आर ऑपरेटर्स आर नॉट स्पेशलाइज्ड? ऐसा कुछ लिखा है क्या कहीं? नहीं लिखा. तो आप अज्यूम कैसे करोगे उसको? हमें तो ये लिखा है कि भाई हमारी वर्कफोर्स उस काम पे नहीं आ रही है, वो हमारा रूट कॉज. बट हमारा डायरेक्टली लिंक कॉज क्या है कि भाई ब्रेक डाउन हो रहा है मशीन के. ठीक है. हमें नहीं बताया गया कि इट इट रिक्वायर्स ऑपरेटर्स व्हिच वी डू नॉट हैव. दैट इज व्हाई वी वोंट चूज बी. Shreyas is saying operators being absent can be a cause of why the machinery can't be used. It could be, but देखो डायरेक्टली लिंक्ड उससे क्या है? डायरेक्टली लिंक्ड है कि ब्रेक डाउन हो रहा है. जस्ट पैसेज पढ़ो ना, देखो. There have been several breakdowns in the new machinery leading to production delays and quality issues. What is leading to production delays and quality issues? The breakdown in the new machinery. The question डायरेक्टली इज टेलिंग यू द आंसर। तो इसमें आप उससे जबरदस्ती तू मैं क्यों कर रहे हो कि नहीं नहीं ब्रेक डाउन की वजह से नहीं, हमारा तो वर्कर नहीं आ रहा है इस वजह से प्रोडक्शन डिले हो रहा है। आपसे सिंपल क्वेश्चन पूछ रहा है कि डिक्लाइन क्यों हो रही है एफिशिएंसी में, वो कह रहा है डिक्लाइन इसलिए हो रही है क्योंकि ब्रेक डाउन हो रहा है मशीन में। आप कह रहे हो नहीं मैं तो ये नहीं मानूंगा, मैं तो ऊपर वाला पॉइंट मानूंगा। तो दैट इज जस्ट आर्ग्यूइंग विद द क्वेश्चन, राइट? यू डू नॉट वांट टू आर्ग्यू विद अ फैक्ट व्हिच इज डायरेक्टली लिंक्ड टू योर क्वेश्चन, जस्ट गो विद द फैक्ट। पॉसिबिलिटी तो हो सकती है, बिल्कुल हो सकती है, मैं डिनाई नहीं कर रहा। बट वही है कि वी डू नॉट नो कि हमारे पास स्पेशलाइज्ड ऑपरेटर्स हैं या नहीं है, वो कितनी फ्रीक्वेंसी से ऑफिस आ रहे हैं या नहीं आ रहे हैं। हो सकता है जो वर्कफोर्स नहीं आ रही वो नॉन स्पेशलाइज्ड वाली वर्कफोर्स है, हो सकता है वो स्पेशलाइज्ड वाली वर्कफोर्स। वी डोंट नो, व्हाई वुड वी अज्यूम, वी वोंट अज्यूम। ओके, लेट्स डू क्वेश्चन नंबर 99 वेरी क्विकली। सॉरी, क्वेश्चन 99। Jyoti is saying what we won't try to inquire into why machinery is prone to break down. That would be that would be assumption based. We do not have enough data to solve that problem, and that's not our problem also. उतना पीछे हमें क्यों जाना है कि भाई मशीनरी किस टाइप की है, किस कंपनी ने बनाई है, क्या उसमें प्रॉब्लम है? नॉट अ प्रॉब्लम, नॉट अ कंसर्न। Okay, some people are saying C, some people are saying D. देखो यार सिंपल है, सी होगा ना इसका आंसर। अभी हमने डिस्कस किया कि क्रिटिकल डिफरेंस क्या है उनकी सिचुएशन में और हमारी सिचुएशन में। उन्होंने भी सेम मशीनरी यूज करी है, तो अगर हमारी मशीनरी इज प्रोन टू ब्रेक डाउन तो उनकी मशीनरी भी प्रोन टू ब्रेक डाउन होगी ना, जब सेम मशीनरी यूज हो रही है। देखो, कंपनीज competitors have adopted similar automation technologies and are experiencing increased productivity। भी अभी बता रहा था आपको कि मशीन सेम है बट उनकी प्रोडक्टिविटी ज्यादा क्यों है, क्योंकि भाई उनके पास मोटिवेटेड एम्प्लॉइज हैं, सेटिस्फाइड एम्प्लॉइज हैं, हमारे पास नहीं है। तो हमारा डिफरेंस यही है कि कंपनीज वर्कफोर्स लैक्स मोटिवेशन एंड जॉब सेटिस्फैक्शन, सिंपल एज दैट। इसमें ज्यादा सोचने वाली बात है ही नहीं। बोथ द कंपनीज एंड कॉम्पिटिटर्स हैव इंट्रोड्यूस न्यू प्रोडक्शन सिस्टम, की तो सिमिलैरिटी है, डिफरेंस नहीं है। कॉम्पिटिटर्स हैव एक्सपीरियंस इंक्रीज कस्टमर कंप्लेंट्स, ऐसा हमारे पास कोई डेटा नहीं है। हमारे पास अपना डेटा है कि हमारी कस्टमर कंप्लेंट्स बढ़ गई है, तो दिस गोज अगेंस्ट द फैक्ट। रॉन्ग आंसर। कंपनीज मशीनरी इज प्रोन टू ब्रेक डाउन, हाँ ये फैक्ट में लिखा है, ये तो लिखा है कि ये वाली मशीनरी प्रोन टू ब्रेक डाउन है। डिफरेंस क्या है? डिफरेंस है वर्कफोर्स में, कि हमारी वर्कफोर्स मोटिवेटेड नहीं है और जॉब सेटिस्फैक्शन नहीं है, सिंपल एज दैट। ठीक है, सी बिकम्स द राइट आंसर। दैट इज द डिफरेंस, क्योंकि उनकी प्रोडक्टिविटी बढ़ रही है ना डिस्पाइट हैविंग द प्रोन टू ब्रेक डाउन मशीनरी, सिंपल बात है। और हमारी प्रोडक्टिविटी कम हो रही है डिस्पाइट हैविंग द सेम मशीन्स। तो डिफरेंस कहाँ पे आएगा? डिफरेंस मशीन में तो नहीं आ रहा, फिर डिफरेंस आ रहा है मोटिवेशन और जॉब सेटिस्फैक्शन में। आई होप दिस इज क्लियर, सिंपल था। अरे देखो श्रेयस, वी आर नॉट अज्यूमिंग इट, वी आर मेकिंग एन इन्फ्रेंस बेस्ड ऑन द फैक्ट। देखो यहाँ पे क्या लिखा है, कंपनीज कॉम्पिटिटर्स हैव अडॉप्टेड सिमिलर ऑटोमेशन टेक्नोलॉजीज एंड आर एक्सपीरियंसिंग इंक्रीज प्रोडक्टिविटी। और हमारी प्रोडक्टिविटी कम हो रही है, क्यों हो रही है? कॉजल रिलेशनशिप बनाओ ना। अगर सेम मशीन दो लोग यूज कर रहे हैं, लेट से दो कंपनी ए एंड बी है ना, दोनों के पास सेम एक्स मशीन है, लेकिन यहाँ पे वर्क फोर्स है एबीसी, यहाँ पे वर्क फोर्स है लेट से डीईएफ। और मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि भाई बी का प्रोडक्टिविटी ज्यादा हो रहा है, ए का प्रोडक्टिविटी कम हो रहा है, एक्स कांस्टेंट है दोनों जगह, तो वेरिएशन कहाँ पे आएगा? एबीसी वर्सेस डीएफ में ही तो आएगा। इसमें अजम्पशन क्या है? ये तो इन्फ्रेंस है ना। डू यू गेट माय पॉइंट? यस एग्जैक्टली, ये तो हमें लिखा है ना फैक्ट्स में, वर्कफोर्स कैन डिफर बिकॉज वी कैन इन्फर दैट, दैट कैन बी अ पॉसिबिलिटी। वेरी प्लॉजिबल लॉजिकल डिडक्शन है ना वो तो। बट मशीनरी सेम है, ये तो फैक्ट है। Okay, question number 100. Let's do this. Let's do the last question for the day. Question number 100. Most of you are saying C, which is the correct answer. I don't think I need to explain this. हम प्रॉब्लम को काफ़ी डिटेल में डिस्कस कर चुके हैं. So this is pretty simple. It would lead to delay in production. लोग आएंगे नहीं काम पे तो प्रोडक्शन डिले हो गई. लास्ट 2 क्वेश्चंस, बस ये 2 क्वेश्चंस और हैं. पूरा ही सेट कर लेते हैं when we are doing it. 5 मिनट और सही. Let's do 101 and 102. अब जब आपने रूट कॉज आइडेंटिफाई कर लिया, 101 आपके लिए बहुत इजी हो जाना चाहिए. नाउ यू नो द रूट कॉज ऑफ आवर प्रॉब्लम, राइट? सो रूट कॉज को एड्रेस करेंगे हम, ध्यान रखना. सही जवाब बी. सीख गए आप लोग डिसीजन मेकिंग, क्या बात है. तो रूट कॉज हमारा था जॉब सेटिस्फैक्शन नहीं है, मोटिवेशन नहीं है, तो हम वही चीज़ को एड्रेस करेंगे, उसी चीज़ को सॉल्व करेंगे. लेट्स डू क्वेश्चन 102 जल्दी से. पोटेंशियल कॉन्सिक्वेंस क्या होगा इंक्रीज्ड कस्टमर कंप्लेंट्स का? बहुत सिंपल है, ये तो लॉजिकल बात है. Okay, Tanvi, I'll check your message. Yes, absolutely correct. See, अगर भाई कस्टमर कंप्लेंट्स आ रही है प्रोडक्ट क्वालिटी की, तो उससे लॉस ऑफ कस्टमर्स और रेपुटेशन डैमेज होगा. एज सिंपल एज दैट, राइट? So that brings us to the end of decision making. I hope this was a productive class. I hope you have some clarity as to how to approach decision making questions. Now you know everything about the components. What is decision making? Components of decision making. You know types of decision making questions. देखो ये सारे हमने कर लिए. Logic देख लिया हमने, course of action देख लिया, constraint वाला देख लिया, objective वाला देख लिया, root cause वाला देख लिया. Vision वाले बहुत कम आते हैं, but हाँ आप कर लोगे उसको. एंड फिर हमने स्ट्रक्चर्ड अप्रोच देख ली, हमने 3 स्टेप अप्रोच देख ली. रिकॉग्नाइजिंग द प्रॉब्लम, देन लुकिंग एट स्टेक होल्डर्स, देन मेकिंग अ डिसीजन, checking if it's fair, legal, ethical, all of those things. So now we have a framework to solve the questions as well. I hope everything discussed today is clear to everyone. This was a helpful class for you. If yes, can have a clear in the chat box so that I know everything was sorted. And now you're confident with decision making questions. You can kill all decision making questions with ease. Clear in the chat box please, jaldi se, then we'll wrap up the discussion for the day. ठीक है. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for participating in today's class. I know थोड़ी लंबी हो गई आज की class, but ठीक है. Whatever it takes to help you guys. All right, that's all for today, guys. We'll meet tomorrow again in another Hindu analysis. कल Hindu analysis के साथ Menti quiz भी होगा at 3 p.m. So make sure you don't miss it. कल के हिंदू एनालिसिस और मेंटी क्वेस्ट का कल का परव्यू रहेगा जुलाई अगस्त. ठीक है, जुलाई अगस्त रिवाइज करके आना. we'll have 15 questions around मेंटी क्वेस्ट एंड हिंदू एनालिसिस. चलो, बाय बाय, टेक केयर, साइनिंग ऑफ.